70 years on from when France was liberated, war and imprisonment are still very painful memories for the victims of the Nazi occupation. Many of them had their lives turned upside down at a very early age.
My arrest was a mistake. I was 8 and my mother had been arrested at her group leader's house where a trap had been laid. We were met by 2 men, one holding a revolver and the other a grenade. I think they were surprised to see a woman and a child.
After our arrest on the 29th of June 1944, they took us to the Gestapo, and after a while a man came to take my mother and my grandfather away for interrogation. Half an hour later, my mother came back alone and whispered, "They've killed your grandfather."
Andrée, whose parents and brothers belonged to the resistance, and Claude, the Jewish teenager, were imprisoned in Montluc. This prison in Lyon was requisitioned by the Wehrmacht for the southern area of France. More than 8,000 Jews, members of the resistance and hostages were held there in the most horrific conditions. The prisoners were tortured by the Gestapo, shot or sent to concentration camps.
They came to get me to put me in what they called the Jews' hut. We were fed once a day and we were infested with bugs. There were millions of them and it didn't matter how many we crushed, they still kept coming.
Their problem was knowing where to put a non-Jewish woman and a child. We were taken to the women's dormitory and I found myself for the first time in front of a bunk bed. Of course there was no guardrail or ladder, so I remember my mother complaining bitterly that I would fall.
Ma mère a râlé en disant non, elle va tomber.
In the morning, the door would open and a German would appear and call out a list of names in alphabetical order. We knew the list would finish in one of 2 ways, with or without luggage. On the 2 occasions I heard the lists, they finished with without luggage. This meant that those who had been called were leaving and they knew it to be shot that day.
My mother was interrogated several times. None of the other inmates showed any compassion. The first time she was taken away, I remember asking, "Where is Mummy?" and saying that we needed to keep her dinner. The others just said, "When she comes back, she won't feel like eating and she'll tell you the same, so just leave it."
There we heard screams and dogs barking. We didn't know where we were at the time, but later learned that we had been taken to Birkenau. I was 15. At first I hesitated, but then went next to my mother. She pushed me violently away from her and back with the men. We lost sight of each other and neither of us knew what was about to happen. I never saw her again.
My mother was deported to Ravensbrück, and she came back at the end of June 1945. My father was deported to Dachau, where he died. One of my brothers died in Mauthausen on the 24th of March 1945.
The one thing that will forever haunt me is how I lost my mother. I wake up in the night thinking of her and I can still picture her. I cannot come to terms with the fact that she is dead, nor accept the way she died.
I left my childhood in Montluc. When I came out of there, I was no longer a child.